welcome back to another episode with a Wild Thoughts podcast.
Yes.
Woo! So today's episode is a very interesting one. It's basically we're going to be talking about outgrowing friendships and even evolving and changing friendships and basically how to navigate those and why this may be happening in some moments in our lives. We always have those friendships that are going to kind of come and go through different chapters. Sometimes you might be more connected to a certain friend or friend group than other times. And there's not always a specific reason. It doesn't mean your relationship is super toxic. Sometimes it could be that one person is more distant, maybe you're more distant. And it's part of life, I think, especially as you grow and get more responsibilities, dive into adulthood. Like sometimes most of the people maybe at this time in our lives are working full time. So you just have less time. But yeah, we're kind of just going to be like discussing about that.
I think it's also like important to note that friendships come for specific times in your life, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're always going to have friends throughout your whole life. Like, yes, you might be lucky with one or two of those friends, but majority of the time, because you're in different like stages of your life, there is specific friendships that come in. So like you have your high school friends, you have your college friends, and you have like adult friends. And it could be that some friendships last through that because you want to prioritize those friendships, so you make it work. But a lot of the times you kind of like get dropped or drop people along the way because it no longer like aligns with your lifestyle, right?
Yeah, exactly. In this episode, we're kind of going to navigate. I also feel like I've been kind of going through this, and it's a weird thing when it's happening to you for the first time. Like you're being dropped in a way.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I don't know if I'm officially being dropped, but like it's just the feelings of questioning how solid is your friendship compared to what it was. Like you're realizing that you're not seeing them as much, or they've kind of replaced you with someone else. Not replaced you, but you see that they're hanging out with people and putting time. So they have the time, but they're not choosing to do it with you. Yeah. And sometimes you may wonder like, why? Or like, did I do something? And all of those things.
I've always been on the other side of it where I'm like kind of like, oh, this friendship is not gonna last in my life. We gotta cut this, snip, you know what I mean? So we'll kind of discuss this.
Yeah, exactly. Like the opposite ends for sure.
So we'll first start with like signs you've outgrown your friendship, and like these are times that you should kind of contemplate whether or not you want to keep these friends in your life, or if it's time to like kind of snip, cut them off type of thing. So first, if you're stuck on the past. So this has come up with a lot of my ex friendships where it's kind of like we had nothing more to talk about except for old memories and like inside jokes from the past, memories from the past, reminiscing about, I don't know, like high school or college stories. And like, we have nothing new to say to each other. So we're just kind of like bonding over the fact that we went through this certain stage in our life. And
yeah, that's like a good point. Cause like, I think right away I didn't think of that, but yeah, sometimes that even happens to me. Like, I don't know how to continue the conversation or what we have in calm. And sometimes it's okay to stay in silent, but you know when you feel that awkwardness if we're silent too long with certain friends, and like I feel awkward, so I'll just bring up like, oh, remember when you know that?
Yeah, you know what, I noticed that you do that. Not with me, but like okay, I'm like observing.
We're good then. Yeah, but sometimes I feel like maybe I do that just to like fill in the gap, or but sometimes I am genuinely thinking about it. Like sometimes I'd be like, oh, Kathy, I was thinking about this the other day. Remember in high school when you did this, blah, blah, like it just for fun. Yeah. But sometimes it's more of a like, oh, I don't know what to say, so I'm going to bring this forward.
But it's more like if it's consistently just being brought back to like old memories and you're not talking about your current lives, your conversations are very surface level and you're not like really getting too deep, and you don't really know what's going on in their life at this point because like you're only talking about the past.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
No, for sure.
Yeah. And if this is happening and you're kind of like, I think this friendship is still salvageable, I think the thing to do is kind of take a step back, create some distance between each other and kind of take a break and kind of see, like, evaluate, like, do I think this friendship is going to be beneficial for me in the long run? If it is, I need to put in more effort to like kind of talk about deeper things with them, really ask them how they're doing, and like make sure they're reciprocating those questions too, so that you can kind of build a deeper bond.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's very true.
The next thing is kind of tricky because it's about falling into old habits. So maybe you don't want to be hanging out with this person because they're tied to a certain trigger point in your life. This person helped you through a difficult time in your life and they're kind of tied to that in your mind. Or maybe they're still doing something that you've kind of like broken the habit. So maybe like you don't want to smoke anymore and they're still like smokers, and like, you know, if you hang out with them, that's going to trigger you to want to do that and kind of continue these bad habits. So that might be a reason why you're kind of drifting away from them and you don't really want them.
I feel like you may latch on to someone because in one moment you're in your life they served you not a lot of purpose, because that sounds like it's like a transactional situation, but just that they were really there for you, so you latch on to it. But then maybe that friendship isn't consistent. Like, they were good to give you advice for a certain situation, so you really value them, but otherwise in your daily life when you don't have issues, maybe it's just like, and sometimes it's okay to keep those friendships. It doesn't mean like cut it out. It just, you might not see them as often. It might be a different type of friendship. And then I agree with like the kind of like, if you're trying to be a certain person or stop a certain habit, then obviously you want to hang out with people that are going to encourage you to do that. And apparently I heard this quote that apparently on average you're an average of like the 5 people you hang out with, or like something like that. It's normal that you might pick up on certain things your friends do. Like, even I realized, when I was hanging out with one person for a lot of time, I was picking up things they were saying and that integrated into my vocabulary, and it's kind of strange.
Yeah, I think that happens in like everything.
Exactly.
But yeah. I think if you're willing to fix this relationship and kind of work to build the friendship up again, I think what you need to do is don't show them any judgment, because they could be kind of working on things themselves, or maybe they don't want to break the habit and like you can't force that upon someone. So just like politely say to them like, listen, I'm trying to break this habit. I'm trying to work through this and like kind of eliminate this habit from my life because I don't think it's serving me. So because of that, I need to kind of step away from you for a little while, but it doesn't mean I don't value our friendship, and like kind of say it that way if you're still like want to be friends with them, but it's triggering you.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. That was so well said, Kathy.
Thank you. Wow. I'm trying.
That was really good.
You might feel exhausted and not be energized when you're hanging out with them. I feel like this is a big one that I've experienced with my ex friendships, where it's kind of like every time I hang out with them, I get out of it and I'm like basically brain dead, because I feel like I had to put all my energy into just being there for them and like them kind of ranting to me and me just saying the same things over and over. So I feel like that's a huge red flag, especially in a friendship, because like they're not really reciprocating that for you if they're draining your energy.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I think sometimes it happens in weird ways too. It could just be like the way the person acts exhausts you, and sometimes not even like a direct conversation. It's just like, let's say you're in a group. I feel like this has happened to me when you're like in a group of friends, and one person, the way they're like communicating is just throwing everything off, and it's almost like maybe it's exhausting in a different way than what like you mentioned, but it's exhausting in a way that like it's annoying how much they're not a supportive friend in a way. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you notice those things, but it's not like a conversation you're having. It's just you're noticing these like mannerisms and like weird things they're saying, kind of.
Yeah. And it could also be maybe you just need to put more effort into having a conversation with them, because it's not an effortless conversation anymore. You kind of drifted apart. So you have to like think about what you're going to ask next or say next. And because of that, it's really draining, because you have to like mentally focus on like what you're saying instead of just having a conversation with a friend.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I feel like I'm bringing a lot of examples, but I have some friendships where I love them. Like, they've never, like, it's not toxic at all, but it's just like, compared to some other friendships, I feel like I'm excited, but not as excited to plan our hangouts, because I feel like our conversations in a way take more effort, which exhausts me. Not because the person is rude or anything like that. It's just that it doesn't flow as much, and I keep having to think about, like, it's less natural. Maybe it's just that communication style between us is different. So that's how it is. But sometimes it's just like, oh, like, I don't know. Like, it's not as like giggles and laughs. It's more like a lot of like, not listening, but just not as bouncy.
Serious, yeah.
Yeah, it's just more like serious. more like, oh, sometimes I'm like, oh, what do I bring up? But it's just that type of friendship. Like, I don't know. You talk about certain things with certain friends and communication style is different. So maybe that's why.
I think this has happened to me also, but it's more of like, yes, we're friends, but we're not that type of friends. And they're like telling me things that like, I don't talk to you about this, so I don't want to like dive deep into my stuff, but you're like really just sharing everything, so I don't know how to like navigate the conversation, and then because of that, like I'm just like exhausted from it, you know?
Yeah, and with some people, I feel like I have an easier time sharing everything, like spilling, whereas some people, it's more depending on what questions you're asking me and what I'm asking you or what you're talking about. I'm not going to impose all my problems maybe on you, or like, I don't know, it's just different. Yeah, that's what I realized. Exactly. The dynamics are different.
Yeah. Okay. This is a big one. Ooh. So saying you're too busy all the time. Now, I think I've done this to people. And
I have done this.
Yes, I have a busy life, but to the point where I don't have time to see you.
So if Kathy's telling you that, you know, I get it.
I have done this in a past friendship that has ended.
Yeah.
And I recognize that was my fault because I wasn't like expressing that I didn't want the friendship to continue basically. Yeah. And I was just using this as an excuse. But if someone's telling you they're too busy, they're not too busy. They just don't want to prioritize your friendship, and they don't want to prioritize hanging out with you for various reasons. Yeah. But the easiest excuse to still like keep you, but not kind of like see you and not kind of end in this huge blow up is just to say like, I'm too busy. Can we do it another time? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Now, if your friend is doing this to you, and maybe you can suggest like, oh, what about this week? Like I'm free, or maybe like on certain days, like on Saturdays, these are my free days, like whenever you can, blah, blah, blah. If they're reciprocating that, they're like, yes, okay, I'm down for this Saturday, blah, blah, blah. Then that's fine.
Yeah.
If they're saying, I don't know, like I'd have to check closer to the date, and then they never reach out to you, that's kind of where the red flag comes in, and where you should kind of like see, is this really worth my time?
No, for sure. Like I think sometimes it happens where I'm exhausted, so I won't put a specific date, but I do really want to see one, and I'll like get back to you after. Yeah. Like I'll be like general, like, oh, let's do something soon, but I won't put a specific date because I don't know. But if they never get back to you, or they're always just like you're suggesting, like, let's hang out soon, and you're giving dates, and they're not putting an effort to like confirm a date, or like, and even sometimes I'm exhausted, but I'll still go hang out because in a way it re-energizes you, and you want to put that effort into that friendship. So I think that is very true. It's like, look, we're always going to be tired at some point too.
Yeah, it's more of an excuse, and like you don't actually want to hang out with me.
Exactly. Still take your rest, obviously, but like you can still balance.
Okay. This one, you might not even care if you don't hang out. So this is like,
that's hard.
Maybe you're the one that's always backing out of hanging out, and like you're kind of flaking on this other person because you're not excited to meet with them, and you're not like, kind of what we were saying before, like you feel like it's going to exhaust you, so you don't want to hang out with them, and you're kind of like pushing it because you don't want to stop the friendship either. It's just like, you know that they're going to bring up a certain topic, or like they're only going to talk about one thing, and like you don't want to hear it basically. Right? So that's happened to me a lot, where I'm just like, I don't want to deal with this.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to say no, and that's it, you know?
No. Yeah, that's very true.
If you're complaining about them to other friends, this is tricky because, well, okay. So I wrote, like, I think everyone does this.
Yeah.
And this is tricky because it could be your friend just being annoying one time, and you're like, I need to complain about this, you know?
I need to learn how to like be more face to face with it, but until then,
but at the same time, it's like sometimes you don't want to hurt people's feelings, and like,
or you need advice to how to navigate.
Exactly. So you go to your friends, or you're kind of ranting to your friends. I think if this becomes a problem where like you're always complaining about them and you can't find any positivity in it, I think that's where you got to kind of reevaluate if they need a place in your life.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. If you feel like, oh, like solving this issue isn't gonna make me want to be friends with them, then maybe you just need to cut it. Maybe you can foreclosure express to them like what bothered you, and then if you don't want to continue, if you feel like, or you can see what their response is. Like sometimes, like I've had this happen where an old friend of mine, like I was like, I didn't do anything wrong. Well, I feel like I hadn't. And they called me to tell me they missed me. They expressed it. And like, I was like, oh, like, I was just like, oh, it was random. I wasn't excited because it had been like a month and a half. So I was like, okay, wow. And I was good. I was good on my, like, I was like, you know what? This like took off. Even though I appreciate still our moments, I was like, at some points I was questioning during the friendship if this was like worthwhile. They called me back and yeah, they missed me, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, like, yeah, I miss you too. And then they kind of like switched the blame on me, like, oh, like, you didn't mean your apology, like you need to like
gaslighting you
again. Yeah. And I was like, who the heck are you? Like you're still telling me I did something wrong when I feel like I still acknowledge how you feel, but I still express that I think this person was not reacting like in a fair way to me. And they basically wanted me to like reconcile the friendship by giving them what they wanted, which is like, I guess like a million apologies. I don't know. Yeah. And I was like, yo, I literally said, I have nothing to say to you. Like, I'm not. And
set that boundary.
Like, sometimes that can be scary. But yeah, so that was like crazy because I was almost at peace with it. I was like not hesitant about it. I said it. I never looked back. Like sometimes I wonder what that person is up to because we had good times, but like yeah. I'm not like, oh, I'm gonna get this person back in my life right now. So
for sure,
you just know sometimes. And yeah, when
exactly.
It's the end.
Okay, the next one, you might feel like you don't feel supported by them. So this is common in friendships that like the other person is always like trying to one up you, not really like. They want your praise, but if you succeed at something, they're not helping support you and like saying great job, blah, blah, blah. They'd rather like share their accomplishments to kind of like compete against you type of thing. Yeah. And it's a very one-sided friendship. Yeah. So I feel like this is hard because at the same time, like most people want to be that caring person, want to be like empathetic towards the other person. But at the same time, if you have a friendship that's always trying to like compete against you, like, is that really a friendship?
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. And then I was thinking, what if, just to put it in like the other person's perspective that's not being as empathetic, maybe they're not acknowledging your love language and they're like caring for you, but in a different way, like not in words of affirmation. So maybe it looks like they're not caring for you. It could happen, but
it could. But
usually you ask your friend, "How are you? Yeah. What are you?"
I see it more in a way that like they're self-conscious about themselves and they see other people succeeding, so they don't want that. They want to be the person that has the highest praise. You know?
I think in a way that's kind of an obvious thing, and you can tell that they're maybe insecure in a way or like jealous of your successes. Yeah. So.
And then lastly, you might not feel like you can be yourself around them. So there are certain friendships, I feel like this happens more like high school area, but like you could have this friendship in adulthood where maybe you just don't have the same interests as them anymore. So you're kind of like forcing yourself to be interested or like forcing yourself to act in a certain way that you know that they're going to be happy with, and you're kind of like walking on eggshells around them, and like you can't really express your true feelings because you know they're going to react badly. Yeah, this is similar like in a relationship, but I feel like in a friendship people are not scared to tell you to your face, like tell you off, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think this is more like you just can't truly be yourself, so you're just being too careful around them, and it's like it's not really comfortable.
Yes, I've had moments where like, because I feel like they were gonna judge me, I feel like I couldn't talk about things I was going through or just what I felt. Sometimes like in situations I would just filter what I would say and leave things out because I didn't want to get their opinion because I knew it would upset me. Which is like, it's not saying like, oh, I can't hear the truth. It's more like they're going to say unnecessary shit. I mean, based on my opinion. But
100%.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to kind of dive into coping.
Who's that actor that sounds like that? Christopher Walken. No. Christopher Walken. You don't know who Christopher Walken is? Look him up. I'm Christopher Walken.
He's 79. I sound like okay, so next we're gonna go into coping strategies with changing friendships and kind of losing and friendships that are basically evolving in a different way than maybe what you had expected. So first, you want to kind of have that talk with them. I think that's the right thing to do.
Mature
That's a
thing.
mature thing to do. Obviously, I think even if you think this friendship isn't gonna last and you want to cut it off, I think it's to give them a heads up. It would be respectful for you to kind of let them know how you feel, because they also deserve that closure, because maybe they're not feeling what you're feeling. So it's for them, it's out of nowhere. And I feel like that does happen sometimes. Like, someone has no idea that you're feeling this way. And it also allows you to clear the air. Maybe they'll get a chance to speak their mind and not justify, but explain what was going on. And that may give you another perspective. You may see it in a different light. And also it allows you to kind of understand like their perspective, what they're going through, put yourself in their shoes. And this could help revive your friendship if that's what you want it to be. But even if you're going with it like, oh, I'm cutting them off, maybe things will turn around. You don't know.
Yeah. And it might provide some closure, because maybe like, yes, you were misinterpreting something, but by this point, like, it might be too late for on your end. Like, you're just like,
you made your mind up too,
yeah. Maybe you misinterpreted something they were saying, but now that you know, you can kind of make peace with it and kind of move on.
You won't hold a grudge against them because you won't have that interpretation. Yeah. So I think this is like good. And you can also re-clarify your boundaries and see where both of you stand now that you've put all your feelings out there. It's healthy. Like, relationships need work and you need to communicate. I don't honestly always do this because I take the easy way out. It's an important factor if you do really want to like work on that friendship and just like grow too, like evolve your friendship. Okay, so the next point is also give it some time. Sometimes we're impulsively on like a judgment that we have about someone and we want to like take action and we're like, okay, this person X, but sometimes you just need to like sleep on it. You need to think about it. You need to see how are things evolving, and it needs to be over a period of time. Sometimes you need to like evaluate a friendship. You can't always be like, okay, they did this one thing, they're done, or like just sit with their thoughts and notice like, okay, like maybe it's because we have busy schedules. We're not, because sometimes you don't know the definite answer and maybe they're distancing themselves. So you're wondering why, because it's not on your end. Like that happened to me. Sometimes I'm like, oh, this person kind of distanced themselves. Did I do something, or did our values change? Maybe I'm different and they're looking for a different type of crowd. So just really allow you to see what's bothering you and evaluate if maybe it was on your end too. Maybe you did something, but I mean like
maybe you overreacted.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's good to just like reflect. If you feel like these are relationships that are totally unhealthy, there's no going back then, and you already sat on it or you thought about it enough, then of course like go ahead and do what you got to do. But it's more for those like iffy situations where you're not really completely sure, you know? And like Kathy said, you have those moments where like you don't want to completely cut them out, but you're not as confident as you were with this friendship. Next, also try to be open-minded and try to see the situation from a different point of view. So it kind of relates to the previous point, is that everyone is going through something too. Our lives change like all the time. Maybe they're going through a situation that you don't necessarily know about. You can reach out. Like all these tips, I feel like go hand in hand, like the communication, the giving it time and really talking about it. Just be considerate that someone is accountable for their actions. So if you choose to distance yourself, that's on you, but it could be that it's in result of something else and not necessarily you. So you have to be mindful of that not everything revolves around the friendship you have. And unfortunately,
there's
like
external factors that affect everything.
It's not always gonna be the number one thing, and people might come and go sometimes when it's at their convenience, because you do have to be selfish and think of yourself and your own needs. Also, talk about it with someone. I think I do this a lot, like when I'm not sure and
pain.
Yeah, and I need to like figure it out or just talk it through. I'm gonna bring it up to my friend, or maybe they know this person too. Maybe they can help me out. Or sometimes you just need to vent, because that helps you actively decide, oh, what's the next step? Do I want to be friends with them, or do I not? What am I doing?
And it could also help you decipher, like, if maybe you did overreact to something and you're too reactive, or like it's actually been happening with multiple friends. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Sometimes I have I'm venting to my friend, but I'm answering my own questions. Like I'm like, 100%. But they're just like there, but they're like,
they're just there to listen.
Exactly. And also be open to making new friends. So it's not that your old friendships don't matter, but as we evolve, we look for different things in our lives. We meet different people. Maybe someone at work matches our lifestyle better. It's normal. If you have a friendship since high school, elementary school, and that doesn't last, or like
Very rare that they do last.
exactly, or you've become more distant, you don't see them as often, maybe you just need to like revamp your friend group in a way, be open to meeting new people and not only staying with like people you're comfortable with. So just know that like you're always going to be able to meet those new people, and don't be afraid to kind of like put yourself out there basically. And the last point is also release the guilt you feel. So, you know, ending a friendship can be very difficult. You can feel very bad about it because sometimes you're like, we had all of these memories, I'm now basically like putting an end to it, and maybe you're making that decision on your own and it's not the other person. So don't put yourself with all that guilt and that pressure, because I think we think that friendships are supposed to last a lifetime, but that's not really always the case. And that's probably generally not the case, you know,
100%.
Even though we make it seem to be, it's not. There's no one person to blame for it. It can be different scenarios, different things that change in your life, you as a person, and two people are in this thing. A friendship is not just like, okay, it's supposed to serve not a
It's a connection.
like a connection. Yeah, it's supposed to mean something to you. And if you feel like it's not doing that, then
and it's also like a personality fit. And like, as we said, you grow as a person. Like, you're not always going to be the same person that you were when you first met, right? And that's kind of in every relationship in your life. That's why like some things end and some things continue, because maybe at a certain point you guys matched up, but now it's kind of like you have nothing in common.
Yeah, exactly. You know, 100%. And you're learning from this experience. It also allows you to like know what you want for your next friendships or whoever you meet. It's almost like if you have a partner or a relationship. So yeah, I think these are some really good points and tips. And just to share like something that's been going on too, like I feel like that's happening too for me in my life, where not only I feel like my friendships are changing, but sometimes because you're working 40 hours and after work you're exhausted, so you don't necessarily make plans like you did in school, you know. So sometimes you feel like no one's around you. Like sometimes I felt lonely. But I was too tired to see anyone. But I just wondered, I'm like, wow, this whole week I didn't see anyone. And that's so not like what I would have done like years ago. I would be like every day seeing people. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, where have all my friends gone? But then I realized it's not that my friends are not there. It's the frequency of how much I'm seeing them has decreased. So it makes me
Which is
feel
normal. That's what happens.
Exactly. Yeah. But then when you reconnect with them, you're like, okay, they're still here.
Exactly.
Like they're there. And I did have some friendships where now I'm going through like a weird phase where I feel like usually it's me distancing myself, but now I feel like is the other person distancing themselves, but I don't feel like I did anything because I had expressed to those people that like, oh, like I wanted to hang out again and do something like more intimate and really like catch up. And then after that, those people just kind of like disappeared in a way. And I realized they were hanging out with other people much more. So I realized it wasn't a time thing. It was just they were choosing. And I could be a bit salty about it in the moment, but I think what I realized is that maybe they're valuing different things that I can't give them right now. Like they want a more party, or they want to like they're also like maybe in a different, not age gap, but like we have some difference in age. Yeah. So they're more in that zone of like working on different things that maybe I can't give them. So I was like, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. And
like,
it's exactly what we were talking about the interest things. Like maybe when we were 18, we were like, okay, I'm down to go to the club. Let's go. But now we're very like indoors. Let's watch a movie type of people, which some people even at 25 are not like that. Exactly. So that could like cause the gap, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean I want to drop them. It's just like maybe right now, like that's where the distance is coming in.
Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, I could communicate that, but I just feel like I already let them know at the beginning that I wanted to like hang out, and then I feel like okay.
It's like in their court.
Yeah, at the moment I don't want to like think about it, I guess, in a way. But anyways, little anecdote.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. Well, I think like the overall message that we were trying to say is like friends come and go. They can come for a season in your life, but it doesn't need to be the whole show. You know what I mean? So I think just sit down with yourself, see what you truly are going to benefit from a friendship. And if you think that there's more negativity than positivity being brought to that friendship, then maybe reevaluate it and kind of see like, can this be fixed? And if not, just cut them off. Like you don't need any negativity in your life.
Yeah, I agree.
I can't even say the word negativity.
Negativity.
My God.
Because it's not in our vocabulary.
Yeah.
I know. I'm kidding. That's unrealistic. It is.
We were just saying, we complain about.
Yeah, exactly. No. We're kidding.
But anyways, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Follow us on all the podcast platforms and leave a review. And follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Everything is linked down below as usual. And that's about it. So we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
See ya.